Have you ever been to a networking event where the spotlight is on you and you've got 30 seconds to give your what you do pitch? How do you give your near perfect pitch without coming off as salesy, without putting the room to sleep, and without being a pro at public speaking? Well, in today's video, I want to share with you my 3-part perfect pitch formula the next time you go to a networking event, so you don't sound sleazy or pushy, don't put the room to sleep, and you can generate new leads. That way, the next time you go to a networking event, it's actually worth your time. Hi, my name is Jules Dan, and I'm a freelance copywriter with over $10 million in client results. And on this channel, we talk about how to get more customers, how to make more per customer, and how to keep them coming back with the power of the pen. Wait, isn't that a Sharpie? Okay, so before I dive into the 3-part framework, I want to talk to you quickly about how I accidentally discovered this. Because as far I'm aware, there's not many books and there's not much information on this topic. Sure, there are books like Pitch Anything that talk about frame control, but when it comes to actually making a really good first impression where people come to you at the end and want to talk to you, I haven't found anything that good. But of course, I'm biased because I've discovered this. All right, but enough self-fellatio. So no doubt you've been to a networking event where you've had an opportunity to talk about what you do. And this is the part where most people switch off. So why does this happen? Well, the first reason is that networking isn't meant to be a pitch fest. If you think of it in dating terms, people are still swiping left or right on you. They're making a decision on you at the beginning. Going into a pitch fest is kind of like asking to go on a 3-day bender with BDSM. And the trouble is, most people do this at networking events. They'll go straight into the pitch. So the reason why people typically do switch off during this part is because they're used to being pitched and they don't know you, they don't like you, they don't trust you. All right, the second reason why people do not look forward to this part, especially if you're an observer, is because at 90% of all pitches go like this. Hi, my name is Bob. I'm a website developer. I help people get their businesses online and help them get more customers. If you know anyone who's in brick and mortar who wants to get their website up online. So to put it really simply, they're extremely boring and they're utterly predictable. And the third reason why people switch off during this spotlight pitch period, well, it's simple. It's because they only talk about themselves. I do this. I help this. I want this. It's me, 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 me. So if you want to be anti-persuasive, go ahead and just talk about yourself all day. But if you really want to connect, persuade, and ultimately sell everyone on you inside of the room, you want to try and think about what's in it for the other person's perspective. What's in it for me? So the good news is about watching this, the bar is set extremely low for us. So even if you're not very good at public speaking, you've never practiced it before, or you just get afraid of talking in front of people, don't worry, because you're going to be miles ahead of people just by following this 3-part framework. So how did I discover this? I remember one time when I was going to a networking event and it was absolutely just pissing down with rain. I was one of the last people to walk in there. And as I walk in, I kind of knew the networking event host. His name was Ed. And Ed had looked a bit frazzled, he looked a bit anxious. And I looked at him like, Ed, what's going on? And he said, well, my LinkedIn account has been temporarily suspended. And this dude has got 110,000 followers. I'm like, oh, okay, is everything all right? So he told me like, yeah, I've got some contacts in place, like gonna get it back up and running. And so I just sort of compartmentalized what he told me. And because I was one of the really late ones to get there, everyone was already starting to do their spotlight pitch, their 30-second who am I pitch. And because I'm one of the last ones to get there, I'm observing everyone else. And I kid you not, it's the same boring, predictable pattern. Hi, my name is Bob. I'm a website developer. And you could just see around the room that everyone was falling asleep. I knew I had an opportunity to do something really cool. So I decided to take a little anecdote of Ed's story and use it as a question at the start of this. And when it finally came to my turn, it kind of went something like this. Hey, does anyone know why Ed isn't anxious that his LinkedIn account isn't shut down? No, why is he not freaking out? Well, Ed's really smart because what he's done is that he's built something called an email list. It's a list that he uses to contact his customers anytime he wants to promote, to build a relationship with them. So what this means is that he's done the smart thing and he's built himself a list so in the event that social media shuts him down, he can still contact his customers. The trouble is, most business owners, most coaches, and most info product owners, they have an email list, but they don't know how to use it correctly. And when social media actually does shut them down, they realize they actually haven't built a relationship with the list. They can't take any money out of that list. So what do? Well, I'm a copywriter, and that's just a fancy word for someone who turns emails into money. So if you want to position yourself as an absolute rock star for your clients, you want to slash their ad cost, you want to reduce their churn, and you want to be the person who gets the credit for bringing them more business, more money, and more sales, then send them my way. All right, so that pitch was from a few months ago. I believe that was in January. So if I missed a few details and there's a few jump cuts trying to get it, we got there, but that was the gist of it. The good news is, instead of you just floundering, deciding, okay, what the hell did he do there? I've made this into a very simple, easy to follow framework so that then you can just plug and play what you do in this situation. So the great thing about being a copywriter is that I work with persuasion every single day. And there's a formula that works every single time. I use it all the time in my emails, my sales letters, video sales letters, even in this YouTube script, I'm using it right now. So what do you use to be very persuasive with people without coming off as pushy or salesy? You use this formula. It goes problem, agitate the problem, solve the problem. But before we sort of get into the problem and dive into the pain, we really need to grab people's attention in this situation. Remember I said everyone was asleep in this situation? Hi, my name is Bob. So the best thing you can do is to raise your voice. I learned this from Toastmasters, a great tip by the way. Instead of talking through your throat, you would talk through your belly. And then you would ask everyone a question. So the first thing I asked was, hey, does anyone know why Ed isn't nervous that his LinkedIn account isn't shut down? So instantly, I've snapped everyone awake from their slumber, basically. And by asking a question that isn't related to me, but to someone else, but to the authority figure that's in this group, it's helping snap people awake, get their attention. By asking a question that's inherently curious, you're going to get people to listen what you have to say in the first 5 seconds, and that's critical. So what I recommend you do is that you would find a little anecdotal story. I was very lucky to find the leader of the networking event's problem and bring that up in the story. But if you can find a story how you can intertwine it with a problem, a good idea to follow is to pick something that's very relatable to the audience, especially if they're business owners. So you could say something like, who here has been ghosted lately? And 99% of people will raise their hands. You've got their attention. And from there, you can start your story. The next part of the framework is the problem. Now, this is where we bring up the problem. So in this situation, I praised Ed for having an email list. But then I brought up the problem of social media shutting you down and then not having a backup, basically. Then I would agitate the pain. I probably didn't go too much into agitation in the first part I was talking about, but you would mention, say, like, you're leaving money on the table, you're letting your customers down, you don't actually own your business, social media owns your business. These are personalized to me, but if you can find a way to agitate the problem that's personalized to the people listening, that's going to be super effective. Now, here's the part where you have to bridge the awkward part where you have to talk about yourself. The best way to do this is to break the ice using humor. If you look at all the best speakers in the world, they love to use jokes and humor and just making the audience amused so that I can listen to them. So when you get to the one part where you actually do talk about yourself, here's something that I did you can use for example. So in my world, every muggle that I talk to basically thinks a copywriter is someone who writes law or trademark agreements or everything else. So all I just did was poke fun of that very common error and just said, look, a copywriter I'm a copywriter was just a fancy word for someone who turns emails into money. And the key thing here is that I've just sort of put myself down by saying it's a fancy word, and then I've really simplified what I do. I turn emails into money. So if you can encapsulate what you do in one sentence like that, where it's super easy to grasp, people are going to be like, oh, that makes total sense. And in this part of the section, this is where you're solving the problem. So you've brought up the problem, you've agitated the problem, then you've bridged to the solution, which is you, and you've used humor. Now you want to bring it back to the audience. And because this is a networking event where people refer you and stuff, you want to make them feel like you're doing them a favor instead of the other way around. So how on earth do you do this? So if you notice in my pitch earlier, the way I pre-framed this end part was super important. So what I said was, if you want to position yourself as a rock star to your clients, and then I listed all these good things like slashing ad costs, reducing churn, bringing in more customers and sales, and letting them be the person who gets the credit for it. That's a lot more super persuasive. That's a lot more what's in it for me, rather than just saying, if you know anyone who needs Facebook ads or something like that, send them my way. No, that's crap. You got to think about the other person. Like, what's in it for them to refer someone to you? Recognition and praise and making someone feel important is one of the most persuasive ways you can use to get someone's attention. So just by using this little clip at the end, you can really perk up people's ears. And by the way, when I was delivering this, by the end, my knees were just shaking so much. So don't feel worried that you look nervous in front of everyone else. Being really good at public speaking and not having an internal fear response automatically just takes time and practice. And if you're feeling all hung up and insecure that people are judging you because you're nervous and your knees are shaking or you're shaking in general, don't worry, because it's totally human and they would be sharing those insecurities and fears as well. So it just makes you a lot more human. Another bonus tip, and maybe you missed this at the start, is that to get people's attention, really focus on being louder than you would think you would need to be. And also, on top of that, when you want to ask that question at the start, try and raise your hand and get everyone else to raise their hand. This is something you'll see a lot of professional speakers do, and it's to get the audience engaged. So if you've ever been to a networking event and your knees were just absolutely trembling as well while you were talking, you felt like your stomach was about to explode, hit the like button. I like to see who else is in that same position as me. That's it for today's video. So if you're an info marketer, you're a coach, you're a consultant, and you want to get better at sales, marketing in general, make sure you check out some of my other videos here as well. I talk about how to get better at writing copy faster, how to write 5 or 6 figure launches, managing clients so they ultimately refer you. Heaps of other really good topics to help you generate more customers, make more per customer, and get them coming back with the power of the pen. I'm Jules Dan. Thanks for watching.